important life lesson. I just had lunch with Larry D. this week. He's our district pastor. And Larry always injects humor into the ministry. He always encourages me, and he tells me to be myself. And he says this to me all the time. God has a DNA at Crosspoint Church. And it's your job as the pastor to discover that DNA and then be it on purpose. Those are words of wisdom, aren't they? About 7 months ago, I was going through a tough time, and I called Pastor Matthew Hartsfield over at Van Dyke. I'll just be honest. Getting with him for the first time was a little nerve-wracking. Their church is like, 10, 15 times bigger than this. In people and 30 times bigger in size. But I said, can we meet together? And he said, sure, let's set something up with the person that keeps my life in check. And when I met with him, I asked him this question. I said, how do you persevere through the tough times in ministry? And here's why what he said to me meant so much. He has really persevered in the ministry. And as I was sitting there in his office, and he rose up in his chair and brought his chair right to the edge of his desk and, kind of motioned for me to scoot up. He grabbed my hand, and I knew, oh, wow, this is going to be a life lesson. And this is what he said to me. He said, Harv, remember your calling. Number 2, he said, remember this is how the game is played, and this is how the game has always been played. Number 3, appreciate the people around you. Don't mourn your losses. Number 4, he said, this is not the total sum of your life or who you are. You are more than just a pastor. I'm telling you, what Pastor Matthew said to me has really helped me, and here's why. At one time in his ministry, when his church was about 200, he lost 50 people. At another time in his ministry, when they were running between 600 to 800, he lost 150 people. That would be like everybody in this building walking out. And guess what? He kept on persevering. And so through the relationship that I have with Pastor Matthew, the life lessons he has taught me are far more than words. And they go way beyond knowledge. For me, they have become ministry words to live by because they are instructions from someone I know personally who has persevered. And so these life lessons are not only taught, they are caught. And when you get to watch someone through a hard time, and you see them just keep on going, and you see them keep on keeping on, you look at them and you say to yourself, wow, so that's how you do it. Wow. So that's how you do it. Now, all these people that I've just mentioned, aside from my family, they're people that I have personally made an effort to spend time with. But I could have said, well, these people are in the limelight. I'm not. So why would they want to spend time with little old me? But here's what we need to understand. If we are going to pursue great people, we have to lay aside those kinds of feelings and become bold, and we have to say to ourselves, if I'm going to move to the next level in my spiritual life, if I'm going to go from good to great in God's eyes, I am going to need to pursue great people and begin relationships with great people so that I can learn important life lessons from them. And I need to do this, here's why, because God is the one who has ordained relationships as our primary source of learning. Now, the reason I've taken time to tell you about some of the great people in my life is, again, I really don't think I could stand here before you as your pastor if I wouldn't have taken the time to develop relationships with great people, because they have enriched my life so much. I mean, I feel so blessed to have had so many wonderful relationships of learning in my life. I feel like a blessed man. And guess what? You probably noticed something as I was speaking. I didn't mention any of the great people within this church who I'd love to hang out with, because I didn't want to have to mention so many and forget someone, okay? Maybe you're here this morning and you're thinking, well, you know, Harv, what you're saying is making a whole lot of sense. I'd like to hang out with great people, but I don't really know where to start. If that's where you're at today, here's what I want you to do. Look around you. Look around you. Serious. Look around this church. I want you to know this church is filled with great people who we can learn from. This church is filled with great people who are open to relationships that are mutually beneficial. Right here, in this place, this is where we begin our pursuit of great people. We are shaped by the company we keep. That's why God ordained relationships as our primary source of learning. So our responsibility is to learn from the best. So how do we do this? In his book, Good to Great in God's Eyes, if you haven't got that, and if you'd like to read, I encourage you to get it. Chip Ingram gives us a very practical way to do this. He says that each one of us, as believers, need to build our own spiritual Mount Rushmore. That's why this is there today, if you were wondering. In other words, over the course of our life, we need to be able to point to the great people in our life who are shaping us. We need to be able to point to the people who are committed to help make us all we can be. We need to be able to point to the people who will hold us accountable. We need to be able to point to the people who will ask us about our dreams and our goals and our plans for the future. I know this might sound a little foreign to some of you today, but listen, if we are going to move to the next level of growth in our spiritual life, if we are going to go from good to great in God's eyes, we will have to begin to embrace the responsibility of pursuing great people so that we can learn from the best. And here's the thing, I'm going to say it again. I want you to hear me. Some of the best people that I know, some of the greatest people I know, are right here in this room. And we can learn from them. And I want you to know, as you begin to process this idea, there are people whose faces in this room should be on your spiritual Mount Rushmore. I've asked some people to help me with this next part. So Becky and Tammy and Charlie, if you'll come forward, they're going to help me, and we're going to have a little fun here. Okay? You up for some fun? All right. As they're getting set, let me ask you this first question. What state is Mount Rushmore in? South Dakota. Does anybody know the national park that it's in? I believe it's Black Hills National Park. Hester State Park? Okay, thank you. Learned something new. Hester State Park. Okay. Let's see how well we know our presidents. And I have my list right here in case I forget one of them. I always forget this guy with the glasses. Okay, here we go. Who's this guy? George Washington. Who's this? This one? And this one. Okay. So, these are the men. Check it out. These are the men. Here's where the spiritual analogy comes in. These are the men who helped shape America into the great country that it is today. So we're talking about doing the same thing in our own spiritual lives. But let's kind of go all the way back to childhood, and let's think about this process of the heroes that we have in our life. So when we are kids, who are some of the first, okay, there go our presidents. They'll back up later. Who are, let's start with some of our, there we go, our kid idols. Who is this? And who's next? Zoe. And who's next? And who's next? Okay, not that one, okay. Okay, SpongeBob, SquarePants, okay. Of course, after we... when I thought about doing this, it's like, okay, Charlie's the perfect person for this. Oh boy, how funny. So after a while, we realized that animated people can't become our heroes. And so we move on to the next stage of our life. And we, as teens, we have some teen idols. And let's find out who our teen idols are. Oh, Hannah Montana! Justin Bieber! And who's next? Taylor Swift. Kinsey loves Taylor Swift. And who's next? Eminem, okay? Not making any kind of promises there or trying to promote anybody. Okay, well, of course, you can put those guys away. And we know as we mature and we get out of our teens, we start having new idols. And a lot of us have probably had sport idols. I know that I definitely looked up to some sporting, there we go. Who's this? Serena Williams, come on, Grand Slam winner. Okay, all right, awesome. Who's this? Say it, Lance Armstrong. And who's next? Who said that? Here we go, Danica Patrick. I didn't know this one. Becky gave that one to me. And who's next? Roger Federer. 16 or 17 time Grand Slam winner. Charlie's keeping trying to sneak in there. Okay. But after we go kind of through this phase of heroes, we get to a little bit more serious time in our life, especially when we become 50-plussers. Now, anybody that's younger than 50 just haven't lived yet. And we start admiring different people. Mother Teresa. I just watched a documentary on her life, and it's powerful to watch her life. Wow. World changer. This is a world changer. Who's next? Nelson Mandela. If you haven't seen the movie Invictus, you need to watch it. Huge world changer. Who's next? Amelia Earhart. Okay. Awesome lady here. And who's next? Oh, okay. And we have Billy Graham. All of our heroes, right? Okay, give me guys a hand. So, now that we've kind of had some fun, and we do think about, the phases in our life where we do have different heroes, when we do begin to get serious about our faith, we do have to ask ourselves the question, who are these people in my life? Because we all need a spiritual Mount Rushmore. I mean, if we are going to, that's kind of the question. If we are going to go from good to great, we will have to construct a spiritual Mount Rushmore. There will have to be this iconic figure of people who are shaping our lives spiritually. So, teens, let's start with you. Probably right now in your life, your parents are shaping you, and you probably haven't had a whole lot of people other than your parents, maybe one or two shaping your life. But I want you to know that there is someone in your life right now who is helping shape your life. You have a great youth pastor in Jessica, and she is willing to spend time with you. She's willing to hang out with you, and she's willing to help you love Jesus more. She's willing to be part of your spiritual Mount Rushmore. So Jessica should be here on one of those faces in your spiritual Mount Rushmore. But teens, let me say this, and I'm really talking to you because you guys get the chance right now to do this. So make sure that the construction of your spiritual Mount Rushmore, that you start thinking about this. And this is good, important stuff. I wish I would have heard this message when I was your age. You also need to seek out and pursue other people who you know love you. And this is what I'm going to ask you to do. You need to take the time to begin relationships with people so that you can learn from them.